Everyone knows George Lucas as the man who created Star Wars, the quiet genius who changed Hollywood forever, the filmmaker who built one of the biggest entertainment empires in history. But what most people don't know is that while creating the first Star Wars movie, George Lucas was physically and emotionally falling apart behind the scenes. In 1976, during the production of what would later become Star Wars Episode IV, A New Hope, Lucas was rushed to the hospital suffering from extreme stress and hypertension. Years later, he admitted something terrifying. He genuinely thought he was going to die. And the craziest part? Almost nobody believed the movie would succeed. Today, George Lucas is celebrated as one of the most influential filmmakers of all time. But the road to success was not glamorous. It was exhausting, lonely, and nearly destroyed him. Long before spaceships and lightsabers, George Lucas was just a teenager growing up in Modesto, California. Cars were his obsession. Racing was his passion. In fact, Lucas originally dreamed of becoming a professional race car driver, but everything changed after a devastating car accident during his teenage years. The crash nearly killed him and completely altered the direction of his life. Suddenly, racing no longer felt important. Lucas became fascinated with storytelling and filmmaking instead. At the University of Southern California School of Cinematic Arts, he quickly developed a reputation for being creative and different. While many young filmmakers wanted to copy traditional Hollywood movies, Lucas wanted to experiment. He loved science fiction, visual storytelling, and ambitious ideas that most studios considered too strange. His first major film, THX 1138, was supported by his close friend, Francis Ford Coppola. Coppola believed Lucas was incredibly talented, long before the industry noticed him, but the movie failed commercially. Critics were divided, audiences were confused, and studios still didn't trust Lucas. Yet even during that disappointment, he was secretly dreaming about a massive space fantasy called Star Wars. The problem was simple: nobody wanted it. In the early 1970s, Hollywood studios believed science fiction movies were risky and childish. Executives couldn't understand Lucas's script at all. Terms like Jedi, droids, and the Force sounded ridiculous to them. So Lucas realized he first needed a mainstream hit to prove himself. That movie became American Graffiti. Inspired by Lucas's teenage years, the film followed a group of young friends spending one final night together before adulthood. It was emotional, relatable, and unexpectedly successful. The movie became a huge box office hit and earned multiple Oscar nominations. Suddenly, George Lucas wasn't just some experimental filmmaker anymore. Hollywood finally started taking him seriously. The film also featured a young actor named Harrison Ford, who would later become one of the biggest stars in movie history. After the success of American Graffiti, Lucas finally pushed forward with Star Wars. But even then, almost every studio executive still thought the project sounded insane. Only one man truly supported him: Alan Ladd Jr. As president of 20th Century Fox, Alan Ladd Jr. fought for Lucas when almost nobody else would. Without him, Star Wars probably never would have happened. Eventually, Fox agreed to finance the film with a budget of $8.5 million, but the pressure was enormous. If the movie failed, Lucas's career could be over, and once filming began in Tunisia. In 1976, everything immediately started going wrong. The desert locations used for the planet Tatooine became a nightmare. Unexpected rainstorms damaged equipment. Props constantly malfunctioned. The heat exhausted everyone on set. Even the robots barely worked. Anthony Daniels struggled inside the uncomfortable C-3PO costume, while technical problems with R2-D2 caused endless delays. Meanwhile, many members of the British crew openly mocked the movie behind Lucas's back. They thought the project looked childish and ridiculous. According to Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker, George Lucas looked completely miserable during production. He barely slept, barely ate, and constantly worried about the film collapsing. Every day, Lucas received calls from California warning him that executives at Fox were furious about the delays and rising costs. The pressure slowly started consuming him. Lucas became obsessed with controlling every detail: camera angles, lighting, costumes, performances. He wanted everything to match the vision inside his head. That perfectionism created serious tension with the crew. Veteran cinematographer Gilbert Taylor reportedly clashed with Lucas repeatedly. Some crew members viewed the young director as difficult and controlling, but Lucas couldn't stop. Because he believed if Star Wars failed, Hollywood would never forgive him, and eventually, even Lucas himself started doubting the movie. At times, he reportedly became deeply depressed during production. The dream project he had spent years fighting for was turning into a complete nightmare, but the real disaster came after filming ended, because now Lucas had to finish the visual effects. The problem? Hollywood didn't have the technology needed to create the movie he imagined, so George Lucas built his own visual effects company from scratch, Industrial Light and Magic. Today, ILM is legendary. But back then, it was just a small group of young artists trying to invent groundbreaking effects under impossible deadlines. Lucas expected progress. Instead, when he checked their work, he panicked. Very little had been completed. Money was disappearing. Time was running out. Fox executives were becoming increasingly angry, and finally, George Lucas's body gave up. He suddenly experienced severe chest pains and was rushed to the hospital. Doctors diagnosed him with hypertension caused by extreme stress. Later, Lucas admitted he truly believed he might die. Even after recovering, the problems continued. Editing delays pushed the release date back again. Then another crisis happened when Mark Hamill was seriously injured in a car accident, making possible reshoots extremely difficult. Meanwhile, Lucas hated the original edit of Star Wars, so he brought in editors like Paul Hirsch and Richard Chew to help rebuild the movie. But one of the most important people behind the scenes was Lucas's wife, Marcia Lucas. Her editing work helped reshape the emotional pacing of the film and played a massive role in saving Star Wars. Finally, after years of stress and chaos, the movie was complete. But by then, George Lucas no longer believed in it. When Star Wars premiered on May 25, 1977, Lucas didn't even stay in Hollywood. Instead, he escaped to Hawaii with his friend Steven Spielberg because he expected disappointment. Then the phone calls started coming in. Star Wars wasn't failing, it was exploding. Audiences lined up around theaters. The movie became a cultural phenomenon almost overnight. Suddenly, George Lucas had changed cinema forever. The film earned 11 Oscar nominations and won 7 Academy Awards. Ironically, Lucas himself did not win Best Director. But he understood something far more valuable than awards ownership. Instead of taking a larger directing salary for future films, Lucas negotiated to keep merchandising rights and creative control. Over Star Wars, that single business decision changed entertainment history forever. Toys, games, books, and merchandise eventually generated billions of dollars. And yet, despite all the success, the experience of making Star Wars had deeply exhausted Lucas. The stress became one of the major reasons why Irvin Kershner directed The Empire Strikes Back instead of Lucas himself, because behind one of the greatest success stories in Hollywood history was a man who nearly destroyed himself trying to bring his dream to life. People look at Star Wars and see magic, but Lucas remembers pressure, fear, exhaustion, and sacrifice. And maybe that's what makes his story so powerful. Not just that he changed cinema forever, but that he refused to quit when almost everyone told him his dream was impossible.